Buzz, Minnesota shot, I think, 43% from three-point range on Sunday. Today, Iowa shoots 25%. Was that something that the team wanted the players to focus on?
I think that there were similarities. A couple of things. They're different offensively. Both are very potent, but in a different sort of way. And I thought that in some ways it was an anomaly that we won statistically with Minnesota shooting 14 threes. I do think a portion of the reason why we were able to have a chance to win is they only scored 3 baskets in the charge circle. And so how Iowa scores their threes is a little different than Minnesota, and 14 commands so much more pressure in the ball screens that they run for him. But we made the decision that we needed to protect the rim and then do as good a job as we could on contesting those threes. I didn't think this says that they shot 41% of their shots from the rim and scored 61% of them. I thought the game early on we were giving them too many shots at the rim, but I thought it settled down a little bit towards the end of the first half and for the most part in the second half.
Hey, Coach, back in December, I don't know if you remember, you talked about having to change your offensive philosophy given with guys being out or just having to change and retool given the shots that you had. It seems like the philosophy is starting to take form now, getting to the cup, getting to the free throw line. How much progress have you seen in your guys and within yourself now that you've notched up these 2 wins?
Well, since we talked about that, we've changed a couple of more times. Just really thankful for the consistency of the effort of our guys. They've never turned a blind eye to what our staff is trying to accomplish. I do think that we've had to change because of our roster in ways to give us a better chance to be more efficient. After Purdue, the one thing that we wanted to try to accomplish was do a better job on the glass, on the offensive rebounds, a better job on the defensive rebounds because we were so deficient in both. I think that's been present in both of the last 2 games. And I think our attack and what we're doing off penetration has continued to improve. Not necessarily a play, some of them are, but more what the other 4 guys do relative to dribble penetration. I think we've been able to, even though we don't have anybody to throw it inside to, we're putting pressure on the rim by our movement off the penetration. We have had a higher free throw rate. We need to make more than we have been. But I think our job in shooting predictable shots has allowed us to do this says that we offensive rebounded 52% of our misses, which is great, and our defensive rebounding percentage was 70%, which is the highest it's been in a long time. So from a rebounding standpoint, it at least allows us in a shortened game in February to control more possessions.
Hey, Coach. One of the very first things that you told us this season is that you thought this team would perhaps lose a game before Christmas that it shouldn't and win one after Valentine's Day that it shouldn't. Of course, getting a win here a few days early, but something that we saw
We're going to count it as a Valentine's Day win. If it happens in the week of Valentine's, I should have said it that way.
No, it certainly works, and it certainly felt like, from what we could see, you were a little emotional after the game. Can you try and put into words the feeling that comes with seeing your faith in these kids pay off after what has been a bit of a tough stretch for them?
Yeah, I have to do a better job, and I'm completely aware of the territory of this job and of this business. I also think that I have a responsibility to who they are as people, and I need to be a better person. But I also think that I've been blessed, and within that blessing, I do, regardless of whatever is said, I do want to do right. And I don't always do that. But I'm very thankful for their willingness to show up every day. There's 97 years of experience with me at a lot of different places on our staff, and I'm very thankful that they show up every day, and they're trying to find ways in margins to compete that may show up in a result and it may not show up in a result. And I think in 2026, the only way that you can have momentum in the process is through a trustful relationship. And that relationship can't just be based on ball. And so is there evidence to say that we lose before Thanksgiving that we shouldn't? Yes, sir. And I think there's evidence that says that maybe we sneak one out after Valentine's Day. But I don't think that that's tactical. I think that's an intangible. And I think that has to do with the hearts of people. And so get your teeth kicked in a lot, and you have to take what comes with that. But then you still have to have the endurance to show up. And you have to have the endurance to show up and figure out how to fight through things that are tough. And I think that happens in life. It happens in ball. It's been happening at Maryland men's basketball the last 6.5 months. But I do appreciate their willingness to keep trying. We'll have to do better in our results, but in the work, I think that some of that was shown Sunday. I think some of that was shown tonight. And I feel the same about the students. And like, you can still see people, they're trying too. And so we have gratitude for all of it.
Buzz, 24 points for Andre tonight, 14 in the first half. What do you guys feel he was able to take advantage of this evening?
I think the consistency of the work of Dre and DA. I don't know if that was you yesterday when we were talking about that, but a couple of things. Those guys have played 24 games in their life at this level, and some of what they've been through has been out of their control relative to our roster. And they're miscast in some ways because of our roster situation, but I think that their work ethic has continued to become more consistent. And I think our staff has done a fabulous job in each day helping them. Both of those guys are playing off 2 feet better than they ever have. Both of those guys are understanding the movement off penetration. Both of those guys are getting fouled at a much higher rate. Both of those guys are playing with a much lower turnover rate. Both of those guys are doing a much better job helping us get predictable shots. They have to become more physical. They have to do a better job on the glass. But their extra film study and the consistency in their skill development, you can see it incrementally improving. And I think DA played 34 minutes in Minnesota. I thought Dre was fabulous to start the game in Minnesota. And because I spend probably extra time with those two, I have a pretty good instinct for when they need to get a drink of water. And it's not completely physical drink of water. They need to get an emotional drink of water because they're carrying a heavier burden than I think most realize. And I took Dre out. And I said, hey, man, I was watching you, and I think you need a drink. And he goes, how'd you know? And I said, am I wrong? He goes, no. And then when I subbed him in the second half, he gave up 5 straight points, and I never played him again. And so DA played 34 minutes. And then tonight, DA were subbing O for D, and I knew Dre played a lot, and I was babysitting most of the game. His last foul, I was over there trying to counsel him, and he got a foul when Diggy missed a free throw. I didn't think Diggy missed free throws, but I think they're coming around. I think they'll end up being all right.
You also mentioned yesterday that you guys gave up 21 points off turnovers in December, only gave up 9 this evening. How much of an emphasis was that heading into?
It was priority number 2 relative to our big rocks. We have 4. It was priority number 2. You cannot give them the ball. We needed to shoot as many balls as they did and shoot as many free throws, play with a low turnover rate, and then we have to – I told the kids I thought it would be a 60-possession game, and I was giving them updates at ATOs and at halftime. It ended up being 62 possessions for us, 60 possessions for them. 14's probably a little too high in that slow of a possession of a game. We've also been another margin is what is our response on live ball turnovers, and I do think that that's improved. Tonight, we had 4 live ball turnovers out of the 14, but we did a better job not allowing them to score, whether it was a live ball or a dead ball.
Got time for a couple more. Go over on
Hey, Coach. We saw Diggy very passionately waving down his guys with about 4 seconds left, up 5, about to go up 7. And then Colin also talked about playing through the full 40 minutes. How has that sentiment, I guess, kind of changed since the Ohio State game?
They've heard it a lot. Real players and real teams play 200 minutes. And the spirit in which you compete can never change. And the execution level many times is invisible. But until this past week, we've either won convincingly or lost convincingly. And so in practice, how can we increase their endurance physically, but more importantly, how can we increase their endurance of understanding mentally the importance of every possession? And so we've been playing different games intermingled with some of the breakdown stuff relative to an opponent just to change the ambiance, but to force them to show up. And then statistically, we try to measure every possible thing. And so the way we've done that is we've tried to trick up the target games that we're playing on the things that we've been struggling with. And I think to some degree, they've begun to understand better the value of each possession.
Hey, Buzz. Going back to Andre and Darius, I know you mentioned that heavier burden. What do you think they can, take away or learn from that long term? And specifically in the last week, how big is it for them to be playing in these high leverage situations?
Yeah. Will you say it again? My brain's playing ping pong.
No
I'm
worries.
sorry.
With the heavier burden on Andre and Darius, what do you hope they can learn from that long term? And is there anything more to that in these high leverage situations that you guys have been in these last 2 games?
Well, I do think the last 2 games only increase the awareness of how important every detail is. And I think that those guys, I don't know exactly what the numbers would be, but they're playing 55 minutes out of the 80 available minutes at their position, so to say, even though at times they're playing out of position. We start them out of position. And I think from a rebounding standpoint, that has helped us. I understand Colin's impact, and we're thankful for that. But I think that that's kind of been a margin that's unspoken, not that we're trying to give away our secrets. It's not a completely move the needle margin, but those guys put pressure on the rim off the bounce. And I thought Dre's job on the offensive glass tonight, that would be his career high on the offensive glass. So for those 2 guys to get 8 rebounds for us combined on both sides of the ball, I think they realize how physical it has to be. I think their diet is improving. I think their screen time is decreasing. I think their sleep time is increasing. And I think that they're realizing that every rep, whether it's individually in the gym or with the team and everything that they're seeing on film, they realize how important, like the magnitude of it has shifted because now they know that they're in it and their execution of it. Like Dre went under the ball screen on number 6 at Minnesota in the first half. 6 is going to score a layup. The ball screen coverage on 14 relative to what we were doing on the weak side, like DA and Dre, they know, and their basketball IQ is probably increasing at the same rate of their production. But I think the work ethic that they've had over the last, it was coming around a little bit towards finals week, but I think since Christmas, they've been more accepting of this is hard. And now they're not quite there, but they're getting close to like appreciating and enjoying that it's difficult instead of trying to resist it.
Hey, Coach. You mentioned
How you
Colin. Those first 2 starts he took, 3 starts in a row now. The first 2 were against 3 forward lineups. Today he starts against a 2 forward lineup. Still has season high in minutes and rebounds and blocks. How have you evaluated this 3-game stretch of starts for him, and can we expect to see him in the starting lineup consistently going forward?
You know, like a lot of programs, we're per day around here. We found out, I don't know, I was putting on my suit, so 27 minutes before the game that George was out. So I don't like to predict. I don't mean that condescending. I think that the starting Colin was exclusively based on here are our list of deficiencies on both sides of the ball. Which ones are intertwined? And it was rebounding. We cannot lose the possession game on both sides of the ball. And so I think he scored 2 baskets, both at the rim in the 60 minutes that he's played. We appreciate those 2 baskets. I think he's blocked some shots. He's altered some shots. But I think what he's provided is you at least have to take up space when the ball's in the air. You at least have to hit him. And so I think that as much as he maybe statistically is not providing what we would want, we're grateful for what he does provide because I think it's allowing Elijah to do better at times. But I also think it's given Solo a one-on-one run to the rim. I think Solo is probably second in the league in Big Ten play and rebounding. But if he's getting double hit every time, well, Colin, just stand over there, and when the ball's in the air, just run towards the ball. And we want somebody to hit you. And then just do the same thing. Whatever we're doing defensively, if the ball's in the air, just the nearest guy you see, hit. Like when he got that foul for over here opposite in the second half, opposite of where I stand, he just blasted the kid out. Well, we don't want him to foul, but you understand, like just the size commands some level of attention. And so I think he had more rebounds tonight than he's had it in his career here, and probably more than he's had in the month of February and January tonight. So it came to life for him, but I also think it's coming to life for Dre, because now Dre's running in from the perimeter. Now Solo's running in from the perimeter. And so from a rebounding standpoint on both sides, it's helping us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.